Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and today we're bringing you a review of one of these specialized Bricklink A-Full Designer Program sets, which was a program that launched in 2021 that essentially focused on resurrecting rejected LEGO Ideas projects and giving them new light via a crowdfunding platform. We've already previously looked at the Castle in the Forest, which was one of the major sets of this lineup, and today we're going to be looking at the Great Fishing Boat. This is one of the few times LEGO has actually done an official boat-scaled set. Of course, this was mostly designed by an A-Full and just tweaked slightly to become an official LEGO set. I can't wait to get into this because besides the Castle in the Forest, this set was also one of the most popular LEGO sets to come out of this program. There's a lot of really great stuff to see here, so let's just jump right into the review. Okay, so here we have the old fishing boat from the Bricklink A-Full Designer program. It retailed for around $130 USD when it was released. It was a very limited release, which is why nowadays, if you want to purchase a new copy, it will set you back almost $330 US. So an absolutely insane markup, but now we're gonna take a look and see if the set is worth the price. So first and foremost, the most striking thing about this to me is that LEGO has never ever made a boat to this scale before and of this type. Sure, they've done the fishing boat for Hidden Side, which was a very small and compact thing, but even then that was really the first fishing style of boat we ever got from LEGO. In recent history, we've gotten large-scale boats like the Titanic, but nothing to this more minifigure type scale, but still being a fully detailed boat. And it's honestly really refreshing to see this style of boat being depicted with LEGO pieces. I'm honestly surprised it's taken LEGO this long to do it, and not even LEGO for that matter, an A-Full designer who had their design inducted into an official LEGO set. So for what it is, it's very interesting. Now, in terms of the way that this thing was put together, I would say that there were a lot of interesting building techniques being used, particularly on the underside of the bow of the boat, and to be completely honest, I was pretty pleasantly surprised by how simple the build was, all things considered. When I first saw images of the set, I was very concerned with how fragile it would be. You could see all the different angles here, some angles down here, you've got some of the pieces angled outwards on the front here, the entire front piece curves upwards. I was prepared to be very concerned in terms of how this was going to come together. But no, surprisingly, this came together very nicely. There was only one minor hiccup. It was very difficult to attach the two sides of the front of the boat together. You see the front of the boat is actually connected via a Technic beam running through it, and that was very difficult to attach. I, in fact, had to take a few pieces off specifically just to attach them. So that was really the only hiccup, but other than that, the building experience was very smooth. And the final product is very sturdy. Sure, some things will wobble back and forth here and there. You can see the front wobbling a little bit, but for the most part, it pretty much just stays together. And that is honestly something that really impresses me, especially when looking at photos where it's not very clear how everything fits together, but after I put it together, it's immediately very crystal clear. For instance, the curves on the front here, I was wondering how exactly they were going to be mounted. I was concerned that they would be, say, on Mixel ball joints or whatnot, but no, everything is just mounted on a Technic axle right here, or a Technic pin, and they actually just use these standard curved click hinge pieces to go click, all the way down to here, all along the side, where the front is connected via a Technic axle. Super simple, but achieves an angle that you really will not see in a standard LEGO set. Absolutely, this is an expert level build, but the building experience was a really wonderful time, and honestly, this was probably one of the most interesting sets out of the entire wave to put together, even including the Castle in the Forest, just because of how surprised I was by the different building techniques to make up the hull. Now, this set is actually also fully playable. Not only can you remove the roof here, so let's just kind of try to remove the roof. Honestly, the roof is probably the flimsiest part of it all because it's just really easy to accidentally break off this piece here. It's only attached by two studs. So once you remove the roof, you'll notice that there is a full interior, but you can also remove this entire section, which is a little bit more difficult to take out here. You really have to wiggle it back and forth. But yeah, I think you'd also have to remove this piece right here to get to the inside. So it's not the easiest thing to remove. As you can see, a lot of disassembly has to happen here, but you can actually remove the captain's cabin and see a full interior on the inside, which we'll get to in 1 second. So starting off with the cabin here, I think it is a very nicely designed cabin. You can open up the doors here. A little awkward how it's using two different types of doors to open up, but absolutely necessary given the height. But looking on the interior here, you'll notice that it has the full steering wheel on the inside, a bit of a computer monitor, a Pi, and a compass, so all sorts of fun details packed in, plus some lanterns on the side to light the way. Just feels very realistic in general. Of course, once you put the top hatch on here, let's kind of get this top hood element back on there and really make sure this is fully set on. This just feels very nice and compact, and you can easily see the captain figure being placed inside of the cockpit there. Moving onwards to the inside of the boat, though, they actually have some details on the interior of the boat, which I find to be really special. You have two different beds, which you can see here, a bit of a plant, as well as some bottles on the side there of presumably alcohol, but I guess LEGO's not supposed to depict that in sets, so I guess these bottles are just water. Be that as it may, there are a lot of really fun details just jam-packed inside the boat itself, which was a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one, because I was not expecting that level of detail. Now, putting this back on is a little bit tricky. It's very hard to just accidentally get things misaligned or whatnot, but I'm going to do the best I can to get this back set up. Whoops, yep, again, really easy to just knock certain things off when you're removing the top cabin. I would not recommend removing it all too often. Despite it having a nice interior, it is just better left fully closed up, because then you have to close up this piece as well, make sure this bar is straight. Just a lot of moving parts here that ultimately just makes it easier if you leave the cabin on. Now, going back, the minifigures unfortunately are pretty standard. They were not allowed to introduce brand new minifigure components for this particular build, and really just had to work with LEGO's existing part library, which is why the minifigures are just pretty standard. Personally, I would have really preferred if they had actually done something a little bit different, even just including some of the parts from Hidden Side, like the Southwesterner hat, which I think would have fit perfectly with this particular boat. But unfortunately, I'm presuming that that particular piece was not available for the designer program, which is why it is what it is. Now, on the sides here of the boat, we have actually the flotation tires, which is a cool design to actually have on the side, just connected with chains, kind of similar to how the Destiny's Bounty movie edition did some things. And overall, you just have a lot of really interesting shaping going on. One thing I appreciate is the amount of detail that is featured on the top of the boat as well. One of my favorite little mini details is this little crab cage. It's very easy to kind of just not notice this, but I actually really like how this was put together. It just fits one crab, super simple build, but it's just a very satisfying build in general and just feels very realistic to me as a nautical cage. Of course, we have all sorts of different things that can be raised and lowered, like the cranes here operating on a string. Unfortunately, these are just the standard stud connector strings, so they will just bend if you move it up. There isn't really a semblance of actually being able to reel something up. That being said, you can pick up certain things, such as picking this up with a hook like so you can do that very nicely. And then on the other side, you can even use this hook to pick up some of the other pieces here. So all in all, it is just really great to be able to play around with this in general. And with that, we can now move on to kind of talking about some of the other aspects of the build. So the one thing that I really want to focus on significantly here is the price. $130, I'm going to be completely honest, is not really doing it for me. Personally, I feel like most of the Bricklink A-Full program sets are very overpriced, and this is no exception. Some are priced a little better than others, but this one definitely is on the more expensive side. Sure, I guess maybe I could see this for $100. $90 would have been very nice, but it does include 1,609 pieces, which typically would lend itself to maybe I would say something closer to an $100 price tag today, or even maybe $110. But $130, that's pushing it just a little bit for me. But that being said, there's a lot of pieces being used in the construction of the inner interiors of how they slope the pieces here. Of course, you have some more slopes going on in the back here and opposable rudder as well, so I can understand the piece count here. I just would have been much happier if it was a little bit cheaper, but honestly, I don't think people really cared all too much. This was the second fastest set to sell out, and I can see why, because it is just a beautifully detailed ship. Now, to wrap things up, I just honestly hope that LEGO will learn from this set and realize that there is a demand for stuff like this, be it for LEGO City or LEGO 18 Plus or Creator. People have been wanting these old style of fishing boats or just regular boats and trawlers made out of LEGO, and this is really the first time that it's ever been done as an expert level set. So LEGO, please, I hope you got the message on how fast this sold out. Make more stuff like this. I love the hull construction. It's just so satisfying to be put together. Seeing the shaping on the front of the boat is absolutely exquisite. Just look at the shaping from different parts coming together, kind of all forming a very cohesive structure on the front here. Just very, very impressive design and layering work overall to make basically the best boat that's ever been made in LEGO bricks, save for maybe the Titanic, which costs almost 10 times as much as this one does. So it is what it is. I am a big, big fan of this old fishing boat and really hope that LEGO will take the message and do more stuff like this in the future. Now, one final thing I do want to mention about the boat that is basically the same for all of the Bricklink A-Full Designer Program sets is that unfortunately they did not come with instruction manuals. Instead, LEGO forces their consumers to use the digital building platform on the LEGO Instructions app. This is not simply giving us a PDF, which totally would have been fine. I would have been fine with a standard instruction manual, but just digital. But no, it makes you build it through the animated 3D model style of the LEGO Super Mario sets. And that is a big, big miss to me, because as I detailed in many of my other reviews, if you have seen them from this series for the A-Full Designer Program sets, essentially the way the instructions are set up is that for each and every little sub-assembly, you have to wait for the animation to load, and when you place them on, there's a little animation that plays of like confetti or sparkles when you place them on, and you cannot skip or turn off these animations. So I would say at least 20% of my build time was literally me just sitting there staring at these sparkles go off on my screen when I placed a tiny insignificant piece on the boat, waiting for the next button to appear so I can move on. The other thing is that if you're using a slightly slower device, I was able to test the instruction manual app on multiple different devices, and unless you're using a smartphone or a smart device that came out this or last year, you're kind of out of luck because it will just take incredibly long to load each step, and I would imagine that people using slightly older devices would be having to spend double or triple the time it would have normally taken to build a set like this, literally just waiting for the next step to load. So poor showing from LEGO for the app instructions part. LEGO apps are always very hit or miss, emphasis on the miss, and I really do wish that they would just make standard instructions for this or just improve the functionality of their app. But honestly, just make regular instructions. I understand if it's a limited product, you don't want to make physical ones. Digital is fine, just please give me standard instructions and don't make me have to use that horrendous app again. Alright, and with that, we have summed up our review of the amazing fishing boat from the Bricklink A-Full Ideas program. I really like that this program exists because, of course, LEGO can only approve so many ideas projects every review cycle, so I really like that a lot of these actually get second life and are able to be turned into official LEGO sets via this other tangential program with Bricklink. I hope it's something LEGO continues, and let me know down in the comments below. What do you think of this model? If you own it, what has been your experience with it? And what do you want to see me review next? Thank you all so much for tuning into Duckbrick. Subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks so much, and bye-bye for now.